Word, Thursday. Description refers to the fourth day of the week. It's a specific day in the week, following Wednesday and preceding Friday. It's used when talking about days of the week or scheduling events. Phrases of example. First, on Thursday, I am going to my grandmother's house. Second, Thursday next, we shall meet again. Third, it was a Thursday when I found the letter. Word, positive. Description means showing or expressing approval or agreement. It can also describe something good, beneficial, or optimistic. It's often used to describe feelings, results, or qualities that are considered favorable. Phrases of example. First, it is a positive thing to be thankful for what you have. Second, a positive attitude can make all the difference in the world. Third, she has a positive outlook on life, even in the face of adversity. Word, justify. Description means to show or prove that something is reasonable or correct. It involves presenting reasons or evidence to support an action, decision, or belief, often in response to criticism or questioning. It suggests a need to demonstrate validity. Phrases of example. First, he sought to justify his actions, claiming he was acting for the greater good. Second, it is difficult to justify violence, even when faced with great injustice. Third, one can never justify failure. Word, husband. Description, a male who is married. It refers to a man who has a wife, representing a formal and established relationship between two people. It's a basic term for a married man. Phrases of example. First, he was a good husband, a loving father, and a loyal friend. Second, my husband is a wonderful man, kind and generous. Third, she was a devoted wife and husband to her late spouse. Word, tour. Description means to take someone on a planned route to view places of interest. It often involves guiding people around a specific area, building, or city, showing them notable features. It can be formal or informal and usually involves explanation. Phrases of example. First, we shall tour the cathedral, taking in the artistry of the stained glass. Second, I decided to tour the building in search of a quiet place to read. Third, let us tour the gardens and take in the bloom of the roses. Word, instance. Description, a specific case or example of something. It's used to illustrate a general point or describe a particular occurrence. Think of it as a single event that helps explain something broader. Phrases of example. First, in any instance, remember that you must face everything in life with courage. Second, one instance was enough to make him question everything. Third, for instance, the world is full of suffering. Word, harbor. Description, a sheltered area, often a body of water, where ships can dock safely from the open sea. It can also refer to holding or concealing feelings, beliefs, or people, often secretly or protectively. It implies a place of refuge or containment. Phrases of example. First, the ship sought a safe harbor from the storm. Second, a sheltered harbor, far removed from the world's troubles. Third, the harbor was a haven, a place of rest and renewal. Word, unemployment. Description refers to the state of not having a job and actively seeking one. It describes a situation where someone is out of work and looking for employment. It is often used in discussions about the economy and job market statistics. Phrases of example. First, it is better to be unemployed and free than employed and imprisoned. Second, unemployment isn't just about losing a job, it's about losing identity. Third, the unemployment figures are a disgrace to this nation. Word, immediate. Description means happening or done without any delay. It describes something that requires prompt attention or action, and it contrasts with something that is later or postponed. It signifies urgency and a lack of waiting time. Phrases of example. First, the immediate consequence of some actions is a loss of dignity. Second, an immediate and palpable change came over the room. Third, the immediate effect was a feeling of intense relief. Word representation. Description denotes a portrayal or depiction of something, whether it's a person, object, idea, or system. It can refer to a symbolic rendering or an official depiction, often implying a degree of interpretation or embodiment of a concept. Phrases of example. First, the representation of the Negro in American literature is a complex and troubling subject. Second, his portrayal was a clever representation of the anxieties of the age. Third, the court's representation of the facts was a travesty. Word slowly. Description describes something happening at a leisurely pace or over a long time. It indicates a gradual movement or progression, often contrasting with speed or haste. It's used to modify verbs showing action occurring gradually. Phrases of example. First, the river flowed slowly, carrying secrets to the sea. Second, he walked slowly, as if unsure of his next step. Third, the years passed slowly, each one a fading echo. Word extension. Description refers to an addition or prolongation of something already in existence. It can describe a physical addition, like an extension to a building, or a figurative one, like an extension of time or a deadline. It implies something is being added to what already exists. Phrases of example. First, an extension of time could solve many problems. Second, the extension of the realm was his life's ambition. Third, a mere extension of his own thinking, it seemed to him. Word united. Description means joined or combined with others into one group or system. It describes things that are brought together, working together, or sharing a common purpose. It can refer to countries, teams, or even ideas. Phrases of example. First, we are all part of something larger than ourselves, united in a shared destiny. Second, they stood united against the darkness, a beacon of hope in a shattered world. Third, a nation united is a nation strong, resilient against the storms of adversity. Word melt. Description to change from a solid to a liquid state, typically by heating. It can also describe a softening or diminishing of something abstract, like feelings or resolve. It implies a transformation or reduction in form. Phrases of example. First, the snow began to melt, revealing the earth beneath. Second, the ice began to melt, and the air grew heavy with moisture. Third, the glacier would melt, releasing the secrets it held for millennia. Word gross. Description means shocking or very unpleasant, often referring to behavior or actions. It can also describe a large or extreme amount, especially in financial contexts. The word carries a strong negative connotation and suggests something offensive or excessive. Phrases of example. First, he made a gross oversimplification of the intricate issue. Second, the sum was a gross misrepresentation of the original agreement. Third, his gross indifference to their suffering was deeply unsettling. Word trainer. Description, someone who teaches a skill or sport to someone else. It describes a person who provides instruction, guidance, or coaching to improve a specific ability or performance, like fitness or a sport. Phrases of example. First, he was a horse trainer, a man of few words and even fewer smiles. Second, the dog trainer watched, noting every detail of the puppy's movements. Third, she became a personal trainer, helping others achieve their fitness goals. Word further. Description means to a greater degree or extent. It indicates an advancement or addition to something already existing. It can describe movement, time, or a quantity, implying something beyond the initial state. Phrases of example. First, the road goes on, further than you can see. Second, don't look further into the past. Third, I had further to go than anyone else. Word initial. Description describes something that happens at the beginning or is the first one. It refers to a starting point, a first impression, or the original state of something. It's used to indicate the very first instance or stage of a process or sequence. Phrases of example. First, her initial reaction was disbelief, followed by a surge of anger. Second, the initial plan was simple, but things quickly became complicated. Third, his initial assessment of the situation was far too optimistic. Word criticize. Description means to express disapproval of something or someone, typically pointing out faults or shortcomings. It involves analyzing and judging something negatively, often with the intention of improvement, but can also be simply negative feedback. Phrases of example. First, he criticized everything, and no one ever criticized him. Second, the critic is a man who has an opinion about everything. Third, they criticized his methods, but admired his results. Word alongside. Description means to be or occur at the same time or place as something else. It indicates proximity or accompaniment, often suggesting a relationship or connection between the things being compared. It can describe physical closeness or a shared experience. Phrases of example. First, the boy was always there, alongside him, in the boat, in the sun, in the dark. Second, he fought alongside them, a man among gods, and he was not afraid. Third, she stood alongside him, a silent sentinel, a guardian of his lonely heart. Word set. Description refers to a group of similar things that belong together. It can describe a collection, a group of items, or a series. It's often used to indicate a matching or related group of objects or people. Phrases of example. First, it was a magnificent set, all gold and crimson, and beyond it lay the court. Second, the entire village was a stage set, a theatrical display of tradition and ritual. Third, he found a comfortable set of people, and they made him feel welcome and at ease. Word clarity. Description denotes the quality of being clear, easily understood, and precise. It describes a state of being readily comprehensible, whether in language, ideas, or visual representation. It implies a lack of ambiguity or confusion. Phrases of example. First, the clarity of language is the clarity of thought. Second, with clarity and purpose, they moved towards a shared vision. Third, there was a sudden clarity, a piercing truth in the silence. Word precedent. Description refers to an earlier similar action or event that serves as a rule or example for future decisions. It implies a historical basis for current practices, justifying actions based on what has come before. It's often used in legal or formal contexts. Phrases of example. First, there is no precedent for such a profound shift in societal values. Second, the company's actions set a dangerous precedent for future negotiations. Third, his decision was a clear precedent for others to follow. Word take. Description means to grasp or carry something, or to move or go somewhere. It can also mean to choose or accept something. It's a very common verb used for many different actions and situations. Phrases of example. First, I take you to be my husband. Second, you must take what you can get, my friend. Third, take heart. We shall overcome this obstacle. Word explosion. Description refers to a sudden and violent release of energy, often causing a loud noise and rapid expansion. It can describe a physical event, like a bomb, or a figurative event, like a sudden outburst of anger or growth. Phrases of example. First, the explosion shook the windows and rattled the plates. Second, the explosion had changed everything, and nothing would ever be the same. Third, an explosion of joy erupted when they saw the fireworks. Word workout. Description refers to a strenuous activity performed to improve fitness. It implies a deliberate and structured effort involving exercise, often with a specific goal like building strength or losing weight. It suggests a focused and intentional effort. Phrases of example. First, after a rigorous workout, she felt the endorphins wash over her. a welcome balm. Second, his workout regime was an almost religious observance, a ritual of control. Third, the grueling workout left him depleted, a stark reminder of his physical limitations. Word conflict. Description denotes a serious disagreement or clash between people or groups. It can refer to a struggle, battle, or opposition, often involving differing opinions, interests, or desires. It suggests a state of discord or incompatibility. Phrases of example. First, the conflict between desire and reason is the fundamental problem of human existence. Second, conflict is the greatest motivator for change. Third, there is no end to conflict, only temporary pauses. Word key. Description means to unlock or open something with a key. It can also mean to be essential or crucial to achieving a goal. It suggests a necessary element or solution that allows progress or access. Phrases of example. First, she held the key to his heart. Second, they held the key to the ancient mysteries. Third, the key is persistence, the rest is detail. Word allow. Description means to permit or give someone permission to do something. It signifies granting consent or not preventing an action. It is used when giving authorization or not stopping someone from doing something. Phrases of example. First, the past is a foreign country. They do things differently there. Second, I will not allow you to speak to me that way, you understand. Third, if you're not careful, the world will allow you to believe that you are not a man. Word board. Description refers to a flat piece of material, often wooden, used for various purposes. It can be part of something larger, like a table or a fence, or it might be a separate, independent item. It describes a flat surface. Phrases of example. First, a strange, terrible board. Second, the whole world was a dancing board. Third, he was a man who lived his life with a board in his heart. Word railway. Description refers to a network of tracks for trains to travel on. It's a system used for transporting people and goods. Think of it as a dedicated path for trains, often including stations and signals. Phrases of example. First, the railway station hummed with the anticipation of journeys begun. Second, the train rattled along the railway line, a silver serpent in the dusk. Third, he watched the railway carriages disappear into the mist. Word portray. Description, to depict or represent someone or something in a particular way. It often involves creating a character or image, whether in art, writing, or performance, and shaping the perception of that subject. Phrases of example. First, he strove to portray the essence of the nation, its triumphs and its failings. Second, the author sought to portray the complex dynamics of power and manipulation. Third, her portraits attempted to portray a fragile beauty, born of sorrow and resilience. Word cent. Description, a unit of currency equal to 1/100th of a dollar or other monetary unit. It's a small amount of money, often used when talking about prices or costs. It's frequently used with numbers, like 50 cents. Phrases of example. First, she was born in the 20s. Second, he invested a mere 5 cents in the company. Third, the price of the book was a fair cent. Word gray. Description describes a color between black and white. It can refer to the color of clouds, hair, or objects. It's often used to describe something that is not completely one thing or another, like a neutral or balanced state. Phrases of example. First, the sky was gray and heavy with rain. Second, his hair was gray, and his eyes were kind. Third, the old house stood gray and silent on the hill. Word chairman. Description, the person who leads a meeting, committee, or board. It signifies the presiding officer, responsible for managing discussions and ensuring order. Often used in formal or professional contexts, indicating leadership and responsibility. Phrases of example. First, the chairman called the meeting to order with a practiced smile. Second, he appointed himself chairman, an act of surprising authority. Third, the chairman proposed a resolution, sparking heated debate. Word equal. Description means having the same value, rank, or quality. It indicates a state of being the same or similar in some aspect, often used to describe fairness, balance, or equivalence between things or people. Phrases of example. First, all men are created equal, with certain unalienable rights. Second, we are equal in our need for love, though unequal in our ability to give it. Third, there is no one equal to the earth in its ability to nurture life. Word breathe. Description means to inhale and exhale air, the process of taking in oxygen and releasing carbon dioxide. It describes the basic function of respiration and is often used in contexts relating to life, health, or calm. Phrases of example. First, he could breathe again, the weight lifted from his shoulders. Second, she held her breath, waiting to breathe again. Third, just breathe and let it go. Word error. Description means a mistake or something done incorrectly. It can refer to a fault in calculations, a misunderstanding, or a general deviation from what is correct. It's a common word for describing a slip-up or fault. Phrases of example. First, human error is the most common cause of accidents. Second, to err is human, to forgive divine. Third, the error lies in the forgetting of the past. Word ski. Description describes something related to snow sports, specifically the activity of sliding over snow on long, flat runners. It can modify nouns, indicating a connection to skiing, snow, or winter recreation. Phrases of example. First, he was a ski. Second, she had a ski mask pulled low over her eyes. Third, the children skied down the slope, laughing and shouting. Word transmission. Description refers to the act of sending or conveying something, like a signal, data, or a disease. It can also describe the process of passing something on from one person or place to another. It often relates to technology or biological processes. Phrases of example. First, the transmission of knowledge is a social process, not a solitary pursuit. Second, the transmission of culture is a delicate and continuous process. Third, the transmission of power requires more than just force. Word cluster. Description denotes a group of similar things positioned or occurring close together. It implies a gathering or aggregation, often in a somewhat irregular or densely packed arrangement. Think of a group of stars or flowers. Phrases of example. First, stars clustered a silent diamond. Second, a cluster of houses huddled against the biting winter wind. Third, the crowd clustered around the speaker, eager to hear his words. Word peasant. Description refers to a poor farmer who works the land and is often associated with a hierarchical society. Historically, it denotes someone of the lower class, often tied to feudal systems and agricultural labor, carrying connotations of rural poverty and limited social standing. Phrases of example. First, the peasant's life was bound to the soil, a cycle of toil and meager reward. Second, he was a peasant, born and bred, with the earth beneath his fingernails. Third, the peasant uprising spread like wildfire, fueled by years of oppression. Word stimulus. Description, a thing that causes a response or reaction. It can be a factor that encourages change, growth, or activity. It's often used in contexts like economics, psychology, or biology to describe an external influence. Phrases of example. First, the sheer stimulus of the city was almost unbearable. Second, a sudden stimulus, a shock, and the man would be reborn. Third, the stimulus to innovation is almost always a problem. Word quick. Description means moving or happening with great speed. It describes something that takes little time or is done rapidly, often used to describe pace, actions, or reactions. Phrases of example. First, he was a quick study, eager to learn and excel. Second, a quick glance showed her the damage done. Third, she had a quick wit and an even quicker temper. Word pot. Description: a round, usually metal container used for cooking. It can refer to a cooking pot, a plant pot, or even a collection of things, like a pot of gold. It describes a container or a group of items. Phrases of example. First, she stirred the stew in a large iron pot. Second, the pot simmered on the hearth, sending up a fragrant steam. Third, he plunged his hand into the pot, searching for something. Word town. Description: a place where people live, smaller than a city. It's a community with homes, shops, and local services. Think of it as a smaller, more close-knit place to live compared to a large city. Phrases of example. First, he went to town for supplies, eager to return home soon. Second, the quiet town held secrets, buried deep within its history. Third, she longed to escape the town and discover a new life. Word your. Description: shows possession. It indicates that something belongs to or relates to the person speaking or writing. It's used before a noun to show it is owned by you. Phrases of example. First, your eyes are the windows to your soul. Second, your silence will not protect you. Third, your duty is to fight against evil, whatever the cost. Word make. Description: to create or construct something, to produce or prepare something. It can also mean to cause something to happen or to force someone to do something. A very common and versatile verb with many different meanings. Phrases of example. First, let us make haste, for time is fleeting. Second, I have to make a decision, and I don't know what to do. Third, you must make your own destiny. Don't wait for it to come to you. Word disaster. Description: a very bad thing, often unexpected, that causes much damage or suffering. It can refer to natural events like floods or earthquakes, or to serious problems like accidents or failures. It indicates a negative and impactful situation. Phrases of example. First, the ship met with disaster in the storm. Second, a disaster of unforeseen proportions befell them. Third, it was a disaster, a complete disaster. Word myself. Description: refers to the person speaking or acting. It's a reflexive pronoun used when you are the subject and object of a sentence. It emphasizes that you are doing something yourself or experiencing something personally. Phrases of example. First, I saw myself in their eyes, and I knew I could not go on. Second, I realized then that I had to save myself. Third, I could not see myself as other people saw me.